Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Qualified Podcast. With me today, I have Dennis, who is going to be sharing his story about his cleaning service and how he's built it up over the last 3 years. Dennis, appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining me and taking the time to share your story.
With pleasure. Happy to talk about the business and booking koala. It's been a major part of it for sure.
Love that. So, what's your background? Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
I grew up. Originally from Texas. So born in Houston, raised in Houston, went to school at Austin, Hook'em Horns. And then I kind of like traveled around a lot. I ended up leaving the States for almost 20 years, and I came back 3 years ago to the United States with a family, wife and two kids, and that's when I started the business. And that's how that's really when I got started.
Growing up as a kid, what were your dreams, aspirations, music, art, sports, business owner?
Yeah, not business owner. I mean, if I'm being honest, like when I was in eighth grade, me and my best friend, like we just really wanted to be Batman,
Awesome.
ninjas are Batman, and so, I listened to, kind of like, grunge rock, that kind of stuff. Played high school football, for a small Catholic school in Houston, St. Pius X. Yeah, and I didn't really ever imagine that I would be a business owner or, own a cleaning business. It's just kind of one of those things where life happens and, here you are. You end up where you're at.
Anybody in the family growing up run any type of business, whether it was mom or pop or grandparents, aunts, uncles?
Yeah, so not immediate family, but my uncle, I would say my uncle Dennis, he studied business. He ran his own kind of bookkeeping business. There's one thing that he did in his life, but he was a person that would kind of always talk, not always, but like he would, very often talk about business in some way or other. Like that was his thing. And so, but the way that he saw the world is like, through the lens of a business.
And that kind of shaped you, intrigued you a little bit, and you look back on it.
I
No?
look back on it and I can say, wow, okay, like maybe I no, I would I look back on it and I say I can see why he said that, but at the time, like I didn't know anything. It was just like it was almost like Greek to me. Like I was a young kid and then high school and stuff. Like I didn't really care too much about business or money or future even. Like I was, I went to school in high school. I graduated high school in '96, right? So like I didn't really think too much about. I wasn't thinking too much about the future or what I was going to do. I was just thinking about how to like kind of get out of high school and then go to college so I can have some fun. I mean, transparently, I did not have like a really healthy mindset about future and growth and, and like how to make something of yourself in your life. And now I'm a parent. I got a son who's 10 years old, and I'm like, of course, I'm trying to help him understand these things that I didn't understand when I was his age or growing up. So yeah, I would say like I wish I could say that, yeah, Uncle Dennis really impacted me when I was young, but I mean, he did in other ways, but not like, so I'm going to go be a business person. I will say that when I like started coming around and understanding that, if I was going to bring my family back to the United States, is what we wanted to do, that it's a steep up curve. I mean, we were living in Taiwan, and Taiwan is amazing place, great place. It's a very easy place in the sense that you could just get by on life pretty easily, pretty low cost. But I knew coming from that into the United States was going to be a steep curve. And so I kind of knew that business was going to be my only avenue to be able to make it here in the States after being gone for almost 20 years. I have no like career history to speak of here in the States. So at that point, and probably before that, honestly, I was kind of like going through a process of growing up and maturing. Like I started to understand and talk with Uncle Dennis more about business and stuff like that. Cause I tried a few other businesses before my cleaning business now. So I'd say like as I got older and started more mature, then I was like, wait, Uncle Dennis might have known what he was talking about.
20 years outside the States is a extremely long time. Were you in Taiwan the entire time, or did you travel a lot and visit other countries?
Yeah, probably both. Like it was 18 years all said and done. The last the last the last about 10 was in Taiwan. But then I traveled all over. Like I met my wife in Brighton, England. Um, I spent time in India. My wife and I went together we backpacked through South America. And then, I lived in France because she's French. So I lived in France for a bit, and we traveled Europe and stuff. And then we ended up going to Taiwan because we're kind of get tired of backpacking. It gets tiring living out of a backpack. And we went to Taiwan for a year and stayed for 10 because it was just good there. It was good there, and it kind of got to the point where we'd always said we're gonna have kids, and my wife was like, "Oh, I want to have kids," and I was like, "Okay, I guess this is the time to do it." And so we had kids, and then whatever plans we had or ideas we had suddenly were out the window, and it's time to sort of reassess the situation on the ground and make new plans.
What would you say is personally for you, your favorite country that you lived in?
Um, that probably Taiwan. I mean, so I lived in Taiwan, South Korea, France. Um, I mean, England. I don't know if I lived there. I was there, like 5 or 6 months and like living and working. But I don't know if I call it living. I'd say Taiwan. I mean, it's really good there. It's a beautiful place. The people are kind and generous and humble. And then it's pretty easy life. Like I said, it's a very convenient life. There's really easy to get to services, access, things like that. And it was just like we didn't leave from any fault of Taiwan. We just left because, now that we had a small family, we wanted to be closer to family. And then, the China Taiwan thing was always kind of like looking over our shoulder, like just, that we just didn't want to live like that. So we decided to
Sure.
leave.
You mentioned school, you mentioned the Longhorns. What was your major when you were in school?
Yeah. So kind of to come back to this, like I didn't really know what I was doing. it I started as a mechanical engineering major, and then I changed to physical anthropology within the first semester, and then I was a chemistry major for about a half a semester, and then I was like kind of realizing like I don't know what I'm doing. I like to read and I like to write, so I majored in English and I minored in Spanish. And I just did that because not without like, hey, what do I want to do with my life? What do I want to build? It was just like, well, this is what I like to do. I'm pretty good at it, so I'll do that.
Going forward, looking back on it, would you do it all over again? The same?
I mean, um, I would because I'm in a place right now that I wouldn't change much of anything. Of course, it's the whole, if you go back in time and you accidentally kill your grandfather, like if we change anything, my kids don't exist, right? And so,
Right.
of course, I would never ever do that. But like philosophically thinking, like, how about like this? Like, part of my job as a parent, as a father, is to pass on things to my kids, right? And part of that is like worldview and understanding things. And so what I am trying to do, I don't want my kids to enter college with no really idea of how they want to do things. So I definitely want to like teach them to pick their head up and look out into the future a little bit, which is what I was. I was just like here, 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 instead of like having, a wider vision of the future and myself and what I was going to do with my life. So I guess in
And
some ways, I would change that in the sense that like I don't want my kids to do the same thing.
sure. Enjoy life while it's happening and just know that going forward, everything will be okay.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not okay, it's not the end.
That's right. Going into the business side of things now, is this the first business that you started?
No, so it's not. I guess this would be technically number four, but number two is not really too good of a try. So I started I was doing drop shipping. I mean, it's maybe 10 years ago now. I did drop shipping for a bit, and that worked. So I was getting some traction, and then it stopped working, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I was probably running that shop for about a year, and it worked well for a little bit, and then it kind of crashed and burned, and I didn't have it in me to either the motivation or the knowledge to kind of to keep it going. And so put that to the side, let it that down, and then tried another thing. And so like the third thing was kind of like it was something that was important to me. So like, I was doing stuff kind of like for married men, like how to be a good man while you're married, which is not an obvious thing. And I think there's a need for that in the world, in the society. Like I see a lot of men suffering because they don't know how in my opinion, they don't know how to be good men. And I don't mean good man, but I would just mean like a strong masculine man. Like that kind of thing is lacking. And so I was really like all in on this, but I never figured out how to make it work in terms of a business to be able to support my family. And then so when we're coming back to the States, when I'm looking at that like that curve of like have like the amount of money that I need to be able to support my family, like I had to kind of put that on the side and go for something like kind of boring. And that's why I chose a cleaning business, is because, like the married man business was it's kind of like a save the world business. It's like, here's a cause, I'm going to go get it. And, I genuinely think it's a real need, but I also, didn't want to do that again because there's kind of, I don't know. It just didn't work. There's flaws in the business model, I guess we'll say. And so I picked a boring business. But I wanted something that, people need all the time. Pretty obvious how to make it work. You do this, you do that, and then you do the other thing, and then, you get better at them, and you're gonna win. And so that's why I came up with cleaning, or how I came up with cleaning.
So did you find, was it like you just thought, hey, boring business, I'd choose cleaning? Were you, Googling some stuff and happen upon this industry where has been booming over the last, I don't want to say booming, but the way it's run now, the way things are being done now, where you could essentially do it remotely, right? Or you
Yeah,
could do it from where you're at, in the
yeah.
same town. Is Was it something like that? Or like I said, is it something that just came to you and be like, I'm gonna do that?
Yeah. So I was set on a boring business. And that was kind of like an open category. What does that mean, a boring business? But then I was following somebody on Twitter. I don't know if, I mean, they run a program basically selling a business in a box program. And so I got into that, and then basically learned the the nuts and bolts of the business model there. And that's how I got started in Houston.
So when did you first start this cleaning service?
So I started originally, yeah, I started in January 2022. Yeah, or 2023, January 2023. So right coming up on 3 years. And then, my first location wasn't really going very well. Like I plugged away at it for 8 or 9 months. And literally after 8 or 9 months, I had probably had $1,000 profit. Yeah, between sales tax, and it was like, you know, if I look at it now, well, even when I was there, I was like, it's just everybody knew somebody who can clean a house twice as big for half as much. And it was because there's a lot of cheap labor where I was. And so I started looking at other people who were having success and winning and stuff. And a lot of them were, in different states, and started kind of comparing, contrasting different states. And so I did some market research by like calling cleaning companies, say, 2000, just trying to get pricing and stuff like that. And I found a place that I thought was, like I was like blown away because, the city was like, I got multiple quotes that were like literally twice as much as I was charging in my first city. And I was like, okay, that sounds pretty good. Did some kind of research about the market and labor, stuff like that. Seemed to be less labor there. So I gave it a go. And then the second location went really good. And then that's my primary bread and butter right now, is the second place, the second state.
Would you say the inspiration to start the cleaning service was, like you said, foolproof, right? It's something that is always going to be a need for, and it's not something that's hot right now. Like, I don't want to
Yeah.
say drop shipping was a fad, because it's still around, but it's not as lucrative as it was, say, around 2014 to
Yeah.
2016, right?
Yeah.
So would you say that's more fair about
Yeah.
this route?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Cause it was like, I wanted kind of like a proven track record, like with my business with the married man stuff. It was like, I felt like I was drawing the map as I was going, rather than being able to pick a boring business and say, yeah, cleaning business, it's a service. Maybe in hard times, less people are getting cleaning. Okay, sure. But there's always going to be some people who want cleaning. And so I thought it was a pretty, I wouldn't say foolproof, you know, less risk of failure, because it's a known model, it's a known process, it's a known industry.
Do you remember the dollar amount investment wise, when you were putting this all together, with possibly startup costs, and I believe you mentioned a possible, like, in a box from, I don't want to say a guru, but like a mentor that you
Yeah.
purchased?
Yeah. I mean, it's a company, and I got, Yeah, so I think the program was $3,000 or something to pay for like the education of it. But in terms of like the business startup and like those costs, not a lot. It was paying for booking koala, paying for, ads. I just did local service ads to start with. And that was it. I mean, I was doing everything else myself. I have open phone and I use open phone. So like a few services, but like on a monthly, ad side of cost, like my overhead was, yeah, probably $100 to start. And then ad costs $500 a month, $1,000 a month, or whatever it was to begin with. But that was the start. It was bare bones, not a lot of money to get started. And that was
So,
that was attractive about it because there was like not there's not I didn't have a lot of skin in the game, and I didn't have a lot of skin at the time to put in the game, you know. So that was attractive about it.
I mean, you said your son's 10 now. These would be 7 then. Having a 7-year-old and starting a business from coming back to a country you haven't been in 20 years is that's hard. It's a lot. A lot
Yeah, it
has
was a lot.
changed.
Yeah.
With the program that you purchased, do you believe that it was beneficial to you and it helped you out fully? Or do you think you could have done it without the program and it just helped bypass time and mistakes?
I mean, is it okay if I say the name of the program? I've got
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it was Home Service Academy.
Okay.
And yeah, I thought it was well put together. I thought the people, Johnny and Sergio, are the two main guys running, or they were at the time. I thought they were totally above board and helpful. And the box itself, like the program offered everything that I needed. And could I have done it without them? I mean, probably, but I think it was a major shortcut. And like I struggled a lot longer than most people, I think, in their program because they had kind of like, timelines about in 3 months or 6 months, you should be making this much. And I was well behind everybody else. And that was one of the reasons that I was like, I knew part of it was my skill set because like we did that. I took my first sales call into one of the kind of feedback sessions with the program. And man, it was brutal. It was brutal. And so I knew that of course, part of my lack of success was my skill sets and I needed to level them up, but also part of it was my market. And like literally when I moved to my new state, the first job I booked, the first call I booked and the first job, it was like, I don't know, it was almost $1,000 for a cleaning job. And to me at the time, I was like, $1,000 for a cleaning job, like, we would pay that. That was to me a strong sign that a change of market was a good move. But overall, I thought the program had everything it needed. Or like it's got, I don't know what it is now, but at the time, like it had everything that you needed to win. And so like I didn't find success with it until like 8 or 9 months, but it was like I said, partly because my market was not right, and partly because my skills in terms of like being on the phone with people and selling was, you know, pretty low.
Johnny and Sergio, great guys. They're still running that program. I talk to them
Yeah.
a lot and definitely a great program. So I could definitely see how it was beneficial for you
hmm
and helped
hmm
you out. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced getting this off the ground and trying to move it through that? You said the first 7, 8 months you did $1,000 in profit, right?
Profit,
So was it profit or total revenue?
profit.
And so
Yeah.
what were some of those challenges getting through that time and going past it?
Yeah. For me, it was the phone sales skills. I'd never had a sales role before. It was all new to me. I mean, like I said, I'd done some when I was running the married man business, the drop shipping business. I'm not doing sales. Like Shopify is doing the sales. Copywriting is doing the sales. So I'd probably say it was sales skills, and then me being the bottleneck, right? Because I was doing everything. I was building the website and working on the emails that go out after, and like follow ups and tracking all that stuff. And I was just overwhelmed with too much stuff to do, which is normal, I guess, for a startup, bootstrapping yourself like that. Yeah, and I guess like, how did I get over it or how did I get through it is like, I was in a point where if I didn't make it work, we were gonna, like, if I didn't make it work, it also meant that most likely my family and I were not going to live in the United States. I mean, we're international. It's okay. We can go here. We can go there. We got choices, but we wanted to be in the States. And so the stakes were high, I guess you'd say. And so I just kept going. I'm pretty good at that. I'll just keep going. And so, I got more comfortable on the phone. And the big thing about getting more comfortable on the phone is picking up the phone and not needing to call to book, right? It's kind of like, somehow kind of connects to the married man thing is like, when you're in a relationship with somebody, the person, and this is going to sound psychopathic, the person who cares the least in the relationship has the most leverage. And so when I was getting on the phone with people to like have get them on the call, get them to book with me, like I really needed the relationship. I cared the most about the relationship. And so I was, I cared too much about the calls, and it came through in ways that, I mean, I never understand exactly how, but it was enough to make my closing rate pretty low. And then over time, I was just like, whatever, let's just do it. Whatever. It's just another call. And gradually I got to the point where the phone rings and I don't need the call to book. I'm okay if the call walks away. I'm okay if they don't. Oh, and that was really, I think that is the kind of like the turning or the difference that made the difference for me is being like, okay, whatever. You don't want to book with me. That's okay. I'm not going to take it personally. I'm not going to cry about it. Best of luck to you and your family.
Competition wise, in your first area versus your second area, how are you different from them? How are you, standing out, especially coming from a program, right? Where whether it's Johnny and Sergio's or a different program, right? It's still competition, whether, especially if they're in the same area as you, right? So if you're
Hmm.
running the same systems and you got pricing close to the same, how are you making sure they're going with you versus the next person?
Yeah, I mean, you're never sure about that, right? But I would say like what we do is we answer the phone. So like when I was doing my market research, probably 50% of the calls didn't pick up in the first place. People didn't pick up the phone. So I think that's a big thing, picking up the phone. And like I'm not really good, or I was not really good at sales, and I learned to be better at, but I am pretty good on the phone, like customer service, talking with people, um, making sure that people feel heard and things like that. And so I think that's one thing that set us apart is that, like, we'd end up having, first me and then a VA that came on, we'd have longer conversations with people. Like a sales call might be 30 minutes long because somehow we would just let the conversation meander into the person talking about whatever they want to talk about. So I would say that, like, we answer the phone, we'll call you back. And I still tell people like, hey, if I don't answer, I'm going to call you back. And we do, we call people back, we answer the phone, we call people back, and we do um, we focus on customer service.
Any decisions that you've had to make that have been tough on you, whether to pull the trigger or not, did it make a like substantial impact on the business one way or another?
Well, the move was a big decision, right? To move to change markets, obviously, and that was a huge it made a huge difference. And I was really struggling with like, right, am I just trying to avoid the fact that I suck at this, or is it really the market? It turns out, it was, a bit of both. So going through that process was difficult, and then finally saying, okay, I'm going to trust my gut. I really think the market's having an effect. I'm willing to take ownership and say, I'm not good at this sales calls, and I'll listen, I'll get better, but the market is at play as well. So that was a big one. I guess decisions. I mean, like advertising channels. Like I relied on LSA for a long time, and then I ended up I currently have somebody who runs my PPC ads, Google PPC ads, and that was a kind of a big decision because I was you know it's a whole nother marketing channel. It's a whole nother it's expansion of your marketing budget. It's a big ask, and then you don't know if you're going to see results for 2 or 3 or 4 months. So I probably waited to do that longer than I should have. And that is, I mean, I guess I'm 6 months into Google PPC now, and it took about 3 or 4 months for it to be worth it. Like I almost pulled the plug on it because it was it wasn't profitable and far from it. But there were some changes that were made in the program, and now it's kind of picking up steam. I would say that, and then I recently made, so I brought in my first VA, the cold caller, because I wanted another lead channel. So for like 4 or 5 months. She was just 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. She was cold calling realtors, and we got pretty good results for that. And her goal wasn't to like her goal wasn't to get somebody to book with us on that phone call. Her goal was relationship building. And she would just call people back at a certain time. We used to go high level. She would get hey, it's 14 days, call this person back. And so she did that for a bit. And then over time, she started stepping more and more into operations. And then I guess about 5 or 6 months ago, I decided that she got a promotion. She became operations manager. And basically I've turned over much of operations to her, like probably 90% of operations to her. And that was obviously a very big decision. And I would say that that's been an overall net positive thing. And it's because what I've realized, and it's what I kind of said a minute ago about doing everything yourself, is like I've been the bottleneck for probably too long in the business. Is like I'm going to be the one that does sales calls. I'm going to handle customers. I was trying to do everything, and then you can only do so much. And so I was being the bottleneck, and by deciding to make her operations manager, give her that promotion, that raise, that bonus to do that, and then that responsibility to do that, and then to trust her to do that. That was difficult, but yeah, that was a pretty big one. It was worth it. It was a good idea though. It's hard to accept, like that I'm the bottleneck. People would say that. People would tell me that, like, yeah, sure, whatever. I'm gonna do it anyway. But then actually realizing that no, it's okay if I don't answer the phone. It's okay if I'm not the one that's doing everything. And I'm at a position now where, I'm the business owner and I'm in the background trying to make more big strategic moves that turn the ship, towards more and more prosperity and abundance over time. And I'm not doing the day to day. And that's a different role that, I don't really have much experience in, but I'm doing my best to learn that. But if I didn't let Nikki take over operations for the most part, I wouldn't have the bandwidth to be able to make these bigger and bigger moves. And we're working right now to open up into another state. And so, now I can focus on growing the business.
It's a hard realization to have as even a human being, right? And it doesn't even have to be a business owner. It's just coming to that realization that you're in your own way. And if you
Right.
can just kind of let things be and go with the flow, essentially, it's wild how much things can change, right? And like you
Yeah.
said, knowing that it might not be your strength, you know how to do it, right? You can get it done, but understanding that in your case, having that VA who is better doing those tasks and letting her take over and make you focus on other things was huge and beneficial, right? But
Yes, sir.
that sting does happen in the beginning
Right.
where oh
Yeah.
damn, I was kind of slowing it down there.
Yeah. Maybe I'm not
With
as
work,
important as I thought I was because things are working better now.
you're important in other ways, right? Like you said,
Yeah.
steer the ship towards that more prosperity, the growth, and going forward. So it's just a shift in what you're doing and that priority. Knowing now that you have more free time for other avenues in the business, is time management easier? How do you handle the time management now? Being a business owner is hard, and time
Yeah.
management is the biggest thing that you can do so that, you are successful going forward. So, what's that look like for you?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a work in progress. So we homeschool our kids. We got two kids. So a 10, almost 11-year-old boy and just an 8-year-old girl. And we homeschool as well. So, I got responsibilities as a husband and as a father. And so all of that's in the mix. And honestly, that I've stepped back and I do less of operations, time management's more difficult. When I'm doing operations, what I have to do comes to me. And it's like, oh, I got to take a sales call list. My to-do list populates itself. And
Mhm.
that's its own challenge to manage, of course. But now I have to decide okay, this is where I want to go. This is where I'm steering the ship and how I'm going to have to do it. And I have to populate my own to-do list. And that's more difficult. It's because I got to, like if I don't work on that automation for the reviews, no big deal. No big deal today. Nothing breaks. Nothing breaks. But if I get the review automation in and I got it launched it like 8 days ago, it's working great in terms of like increasing numbers of reviews. But like I can just see so I was able to put my mind to getting that done, choosing to make that done and seeing it through and then launching it. And now, I've gotten 3 times as many reviews as, in the past week that we normally do. So I would say it's harder to do that. And it's just about Like I've got to decide, of course I want to grow the business. Yeah, of course. And so, well, what does that mean? And then how am I going to get it done? And then navigating the roadblocks that come with that. Like I'm trying to get a Google business profile verified, and I have been trying since June 11th. That's a big deal for local service ads and then long-term SEO, as you know, for a local business. So like, how do I get over that challenge, and how do I take a step on that today? And then you see what I mean? I don't know if I'm making any sense, but like there's so much to do. There's still so much to do, but I have to decide what it is. It's almost like I have to pull it out, of the ether, so to speak, and decide, okay, this is what I'm going to work on. And because this is the best interest of the business, and I'm going to work on this until it's complete and done. And that's a little bit trickier than like, oh, I got two sales calls to follow up with, an unhappy customer to call back and stuff like that, where that's more immediate. Here, you're going to do it. And like I said, your to-do list populates itself versus like, now I have to decide how to steer the ship.
How does that translate into your leadership style now that you are more hands off and you have to figure your time as well? How is your leadership style with your VA and your workers?
Yeah, so pretty hands off. Like this understanding that I am the bottleneck it wasn't like a black and white threshold, like, oh, I understand this. Like over the course of a week or two, I'm like, okay. My wife heard me say a couple times, like I would say to my wife, I really just need to let them do this. And so I learned to kind of step back and give them a task and let them do it. And I say them because now we have a second VA. And so it's pretty hands off. Both people that work for me as VAs are really competent people. And so they ask good questions. They don't understand anything. They're not going to pretend to know and then just do their best. They're going to ask a question. And so they're able to handle much of the operations. And so there's not much for me to do with them. I'll check in with them once or twice a day. How's everything going? But mostly hands off. In terms of the cleaners, so we do an independent contractor model, so W-9s. And so for that, like I'm not, that's one thing that my wife and I work on together is like improving the cleaner pipeline, because that has been our pain point for a long time in terms of, having enough bandwidth to cover all of our cleanings and then having enough quality cleaners, because that part is not obvious, is to hire somebody who knows how to clean and can be responsive, take accountability, and act professional. It's not so easy to find. And so that was our pain point. So now we're focusing on that. My wife and I are focused on improving that pipeline. And then leadership for then, I don't attempt to lead them. You know what I mean? Like I talk to them about the way that we do business, and then I do build a relationship with them over, course of a few phone calls, and then let them know that, for the most part, they're going to be talking with the VAs. And if they need anything, we're always here, and let us know. If you ever want to talk to me or my wife, you're welcome to. Just let them know. We'll call you right back. But yeah, so in terms of the cleaners, I don't really lead them. And it's also partly because of the fear of the IRS, because like difference between a W-2 and a W-9, like, you like, can you lead an independent contractor? I'm not sure if you can.
And company culture, being hands off, what's your methodology for keeping it positive and making sure the the cleaners that you do hire and the office staff that you hire are happy and giving the customer the best work under your name?
Yeah. So this is a tough question to answer, because I don't know. This is something that I need to improve on. In terms of like the VAs, like it's just the way I talk with them, like we stress taking accountability, taking ownership. We model all of our communications in terms of like how we communicate with people off of Chris Voss and his book, Never Split the Difference, in his course. I don't know if you had it. Great communication skills. And so we model like how we communicate with people based on the stuff that he teaches. And then we definitely don't do a customer is always right philosophy, because they're not. We do like our kind of default is we respect everybody, and we're going to call balls and strikes, being like some okay. If there's a complaint from a client about a clean, 80% of the time the client's right, and the clean wasn't done well or something was forgotten, no matter what the cleaner says. That's my experience. So 20% of the time the client's out of line in some way. Maybe they expect too much. Like I literally had a client send a picture of a floor with their finger pointing to one like little thing of dirt. And so on that, we're not going to be like, oh, hey, client, yeah, we sorry missed that, um, we're going to handle that in a professional way, but we're going to say, like, we apologize for that, I'm sorry we missed that one little grain of dirt. How does everything else look? And so in terms of company culture with the VAs, is like, you know, we're going to, we're going to call balls and strikes. We're going to communicate in clear ways. We're going to take ownership when we mess up, but we're not going to like, you know, just eat it because the client says, you did something wrong. We're not gonna be rude or anything. We got a reputation. We got a pretty good reputation. We got a 4.9s on Google with, 150 or so reviews. We got a reputation to maintain, but we're not gonna just say yes because the client's upset.
And be pushed over, right? Because there are
Yeah,
definitely
exactly.
there are customers who will, especially if the business advertises 100% customer satisfaction guarantee.
Hmm.
You got people who look out for that and abuse it from the moment they start dialing your phone number or
Right.
entering in details into the booking form, right? So having that balls and strikes attitude with the office staff and checking the customers as well is a great approach. I definitely can appreciate a business owner going with that. You want the customers always to be happy, right? But
Yeah,
they're
of course.
they're not every customer is your customer. And if they end up getting booked with you, they might just end up being a headache. So the sooner you realize to let them go, amicably, respectfully, professionally, it's best for everybody. How setbacks and failures, 3 years in business, what's your go-to for that?
I mean, failures. I mean, we've. I don't know, like how we failed. I mean, we've not succeeded, but is that failure? I'm not sure. Like, I'm definitely of the mind that, it's not failure, it's feedback. So, and you don't fail until you quit, insert cliche here, but true.
I believe the same. I believe there's
Yeah.
no failure until you've given up on it, right? It's
Yeah.
just stepping stones and lessons learned.
Yeah. And then setbacks, I mean, setbacks happen, right? And so, and it's just, we take it on the chin. Something's going to happen, like somebody, a cleaner, she stained a brand new carpet, you know, setback, and it was like, okay, we're gonna have to buy a $4,000, we're gonna have to replace a $4,000 carpet, maybe. But we take it on the chin. What's the problem? What's going on? We take ownership. Okay, what's our part in this? And then we're gonna call balls and strikes. Like if somebody else helped contribute to this, then we're gonna talk about that too. We're not gonna blame anybody. We're not gonna point the figure, but we approach it from the position that we got a problem or an issue or a challenge, and we're going to work together to get through it. And if we're going to work with the client, to help him or her feel satisfied, or, the cleaner has some issue, we're going to work with her or him to, get through the issue or end the relationship, whatever it might be. But it's more of like, it's us versus the problem rather than us versus each other.
And that's a good way to look at it. The time management that we've talked about, right?
Mm,
Going into a little bit more specifically, work life balance. You have two VAs helping you, right? But you mentioned now that you have two kids that you homeschool.
mm,
Where's where's your right? How are you juggling all these things, all these hats? Father,
yeah.
husband, business owner, teacher at that point, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what are you doing? How hard is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a bit of a struggle to get it right, and understanding that we probably get it right very seldomly, but we're optimizing towards, better and better. I'll say like when I was doing most of operations and there wasn't much of a balance. My wife was taking the brunt of the homeschooling and I was just on call all the time. Daddy's doing the business, daddy's working, that kind of thing. But now that I'm working on the business and growing on it, it's a lot, the balance is there. And now the danger is that it goes too much on the side of life rather than work. Like I'm enjoying life, not too much, but maybe. And so as like now the struggle is to keep myself working on the business on these kind of more intangible things that I was talking about a minute ago, where I've got to like decide what to do.
But is that such a bad thing? I mean, life is short, right? The business, as long as it's still growing, it's all positive, right? So would it be such a bad thing that you're leaning more towards the life side of things now?
I don't think so. And like, I think, man, I don't know. Do you have kids?
Do. I have a 8-month-old daughter.
Awesome. Enjoy the diapers, man. You'll miss diapers one day. I do.
Were you think so? Do you?
Yeah, I do. I don't miss changing somebody's diaper, but I miss that stage because
Sure.
that stages never come back. So that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm taking in every moment every day. It's especially now where each day is she's learning so fast and learning
Hmm.
something new. Within a 2-week span, she went from just being on her belly to crawling and saying her first words. And now she's standing and dare I say, will be walking probably by the end of the year, which scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, yeah. Should do. Should do. That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. But back to like is it a bad thing? I don't think it's a bad thing. Like like I want to be there. I want to be in my kids' memories of their childhood, right? And not just, oh, daddy's in his office working. So I don't think it's a bad thing. But yeah, I gotta tell you, like I don't know. I bet this is pretty common, but my psychology, my mind tries to tell me that I need to be working. You know what I mean? Like if I lean to, like, if I don't work certain number of hours a day or too many days of not working, my mind's like, well, you better get back to work, get back to work. So there's like I think we're all under work in progress, right? And so what I'm kind of going through right now is how to reframe the way things are, how work is like now I've spent a long time building something that allows me to work and live in a different way. And that's okay. And doesn't mean I can take my foot off the gas completely. Doesn't mean I can just, take my foot off the gas completely. But it does mean that, hey, it's okay if I know I was planning on working on automation today, but then something comes up that I need to attend to with my family. The business is still running. The money's still coming in. It's still working, and that's okay. And so, yeah, I appreciate when you said that, isn't that okay? Because it is, but it's like that lesson hasn't like percolated its way all the way down into, my lizard brain yet.
And that's the biggest thing. Like you mentioned, you want to be present in those memories that your kids are making now. Dad was there.
Yeah.
Dad wasn't locked away, in my dad's generation and in my grandfather's generation, out of the door by 6 a.m. and not back through the door by 6, 7 p.m. And then it's
Yep.
dinner time and go to bed, right?
Yep.
Maybe a little bit of weekend stuff. And it seems like the generations now are breaking that mold where it's like that work life balance is a necessity, right?
Yeah.
If I want to stick with a company for 10, 20 years, sure, you can do that. Doesn't seem to be the point anymore, right? Like
Yeah.
people are happier, doing a year or two with X company and then being like, this isn't for me and moving on and being okay because, we've learned throughout time that God forbid you die, job posting is on the next day looking for your replacement and the
Yeah.
company's
Yeah.
just going to move on and life goes on. I'm one that's, no hard feelings if you need to move on because you have to do what's best for you. And, we'll not get into politics, but with the way the entire world is going right now, we need more happiness. We need more fulfillment. We need more
Yeah.
family time. And it's just less stress. Right. So, it just we need to stay on that track. Would you say your main motivator and your drive is your 2 kids?
I think I'm supposed to say yes. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it is. No, I mean, I think that my kids, like my son was born, like I didn't want to have kids. Now, but I had told my wife that we were going to have kids, and she had like committed years to her life because I had said that. And and I don't mean to say or I didn't want to have kids, or I didn't. See what I mean? It's not like I was against kids. I was just like, yeah,
Sure.
okay. And then so I decided, okay, I'm going to do this. We had, got pregnant, and then almost from day one, I was like, okay, now I understand something differently. And so in that way, I would say my kids and above all my son, that kind of made that change in me. But now, like when I'm building and working, it's not like I'm going to go build that automation or whatever because of my kids. It's like they motivated me to get on this path to be here. But like I've got a bigger vision that is in part about them, right? It's about like I want to build something for them, but it's not just for them. It's for the whole family. And then it's going to be, well, hopefully generational, like without getting too much into it. Like we have a big, my wife and I, we have a big vision for where we want to end up. We're kind of a bit in a nomadic phase right now, but we have a pretty big vision of where we want to end up and how we want it to play out. And so I would say that that vision is kind of is more what's motivating me rather than the kids from another room, even though they're an integral part of that, if that makes sense.
Definitely. What would you say was one or two of the most important lessons in the last 3 years that you've learned as a business owner?
Yeah, I'm the bottleneck. Delegate it, find somebody else, systematize it, and then teach it to somebody else, and that's okay. That's the big one. And yeah, I have been surprised at myself because a lot of times, like I said, in my business and the guys I've networked with, cleaners and cleaning contractors can be a big source of pain in the business, headaches or whatnot. And I would say that like not until recently, I was surprised at at how I would think I had a good read on somebody, and then they would do something that was totally contrary to that read. So, like we'd want to give a cleaner a first clean, first interview with my wife goes well, second interview with me, everything goes well. Yeah, awesome, everything's good. Yeah, okay, it's good. Looking for its first trial clean, no call, no show. And so I think the lesson that I learned is like one to not be so surprised at the way people act, because I would kind of like get on myself because I would continually be surprised when it happened, but I shouldn't be because it happened 2 or 3 times. That should be enough for me to know that it could happen. You know what I mean? But just to take my impression of people with a bigger grain of salt than I was.
And it's okay, learning that over time and seeing that.
Yeah.
And when you get to that realization, you just move on, right? You touched on the hiring. It is in this industry, the double-edged sword of pain points,
Yes,
hiring
sir.
and marketing. You've mentioned that you have contractors. How many contractors do you have in total across the locations?
Just a rough ballpark, probably 23.
Okay, that's a good size.
Yeah.
What do you use to focus your hiring methods? Like, where do you do most of that?
Yeah, and paid Indeed ads. Like I resisted doing paid Indeed ads, but I think it's the most like kind of stepping back and being in that driver's seat of like steering the business. I want to steer towards more professionalism. And then so Indeed ads are that for me right now. Like pay for them, but you gotta have a resume on it. Like that even in and of itself. It's just like it's more professional than like a post on Facebook. And I don't want to knock posts on Facebook because I've used them and I still kind of use them. I know guys who use them successfully, but um, it just seems more. I mean, I don't know if it's better or worse in the end, to tell you the truth. But right now we're focusing primarily on Indeed. It works. We have the ads on all the time, so we kind of have a drip feed into our Go high level pipeline. And yeah, it just seems that's what's working for us right now for the most part. And it's getting better. Like we're getting better at it. We're getting better at like calling balls and strikes on them, right? And meaning like, oh, the person was 15 minutes late to an interview. That's a red flag. That's a red flag. Instead of before, like, well, we really need a cleaner, so let's just not pay too much attention to that. And then, like having my wife step in and do the first phone call. She's a different person than me. She's a woman. And so she gets a very different read from people than me. And like she's been spot on a few times. Like this person's really good. You want to talk to her, and this person seems like maybe a good pass. And so she's been real good at kind of picking up on stuff that maybe I wouldn't have.
My wife has that ability within 20 minutes to an hour of meeting somebody. She knows. And I'd say for a 90 to 95%
Yeah.
like certainty, what she says is it turns out. And I'm not, I don't want to say the opposite. I could initially meet you and have, a bad feeling, but then a couple days later, or a couple like meetings later, it completely changes. Or vice versa. Right off the bat, I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
you're great. You're awesome. And she's kind of hesitant and
Yeah.
sees the underlying red flags. And then it's like, uh-huh, okay,
Hmm.
I see what you meant by that. So definitely when it comes to meeting new people, I always go to my wife first and like, what do you think?
Yeah.
And it helps. I mean, it helps me a lot. So it
It's
does
helped in us
work.
and like in recruiting cleaners and stuff. It's like lean on her intuition. She's the first filter, right? Like so if they
Yeah.
get past her, then we have a video call and it's not 100%, but definitely higher win rate.
So what's your process look like from start to finish? You don't have to give like big details in each step, but like what's that hiring funnel look like?
Indeed ad or wherever the source is right now, Indeed ad. And in the Indeed ad, there's an automated message with a link to a page on our website where we kind of introduce ourselves. So that was one thing we inserted into the process is a picture of us. We're a family owned business and a picture of us and like this is who we're looking for if you want to work with us. And there's a form there. Form goes to go high level. Um, and then there's a first phone call, like and then there's automations. I really like automations. It's fun. I really enjoy doing it, but like everything's automated. So they move peeps, somebody over in the pipeline, that first message is sent, schedule the first call. My wife Helen has the first call with them. It's a voice call, she talks to them 10, 15, 20 minutes, wherever it goes. And then she puts notes into go high level about what she thinks, um, kind of what she saw, anything really good, really bad, whatever. And then she decides if they go on to it for a second phone call or not. And then if they get on a second phone call, then we have a video call. And then if that goes well, and I'm kind of asking more specific questions like what kind of products would you use on, if you're cleaning a bronze fixture or a bronze faucet, what are you going to use on marble? You got real hardwood floors. How you can handle that? Because I'm looking for, do the people like I'm looking for people who know specifics. Like I have some cleaners that are, well, I don't have them, but I work with some cleaners that are just ultimate knowledge. I have one woman, Barry, she's just amazing. She'll tell you like chemical processes about why this is is working and stuff. And so I'm kind of, I don't know much about cleaning. I'm no cleaning expert, that's for sure. But I do ask these kind of questions to find out if they know what they're talking about or not. And if they do, then we onboard them to Booking Koala to get a picture of the driver's license, and then we put them onto a trial clean. The trial cleans we want them to be vacant, small homes. And then if that goes well, we'll give them a second clean. If that goes well, we'll give them a third. And if that goes well, then it's time to decide, if we don't know we like working together at this point, then we're not working together. And so then it's, we do full onboarding with deadlines and contractor agreement, insurance, that kind of stuff, get all that. And if not, we part ways.
What's an automatic red flag on an application?
So for me, on the second phone call, like if I ask what kind of product they use, they don't have any clear names of products, or they don't have a clear understanding of how to clean something. And it can be pretty obvious somebody's BSing you, I think, at that point. The more detailed questions you ask, the harder it is to BS. So that would be one. And then honestly, a red flag would even come before we ever get on the phone with them. If you're looking for a job and it takes you 4 hours to answer a text message about an interview, yeah, that's a red flag. No, it's not going to, the first one time and then they were responsive. Okay, we'd overlook that, but it's usually not like that. If you're not responsive, you're not responsive, and that's a red flag. Like if it takes you 12 hours to get back to me to schedule a video call, sorry. And then of course any no call, no show. Like I'll very often I'll send somebody a Zoom link, and we'd confirmed it, the morning of or the evening before, and then they don't know call no show. And then of course they say something like, there was some sort of family emergency, of course. But that's yeah, it's a hard no.
What about flip side of that? What's a green flag on an application for you?
Apologizing for being 3 minutes late. Say like, yeah, they're concerned about their time. Asking if we want references. Like, hey, I got some references. You'd like to see them. What else? And then really demonstrating knowledge. So when I ask those questions about marble or how real, like if they can kind of just riff on it a little bit, like they know what they're talking about, like, okay, yeah. And then like years in business, like we have a minimum, we want people at least 3 years, but that's really on the low end. We're really looking for people who the ideal people that we're looking for are people who, are entrepreneurial minded, but are overwhelmed with all the things that you have to do to run a business. And they're really good at cleaning, but they're not good at follow up and paperwork and all that stuff. And so, like, if they've demonstrated that they got an LLC, they have an EIN, they're taking themselves more seriously. They've done it for, even if they haven't been in their own business for 5 years, but they've been a cleaner for five businesses, they just started a business. Those are green flags for us.
Do you look into social media accounts to vet
Yeah.
people?
Yeah, another red flag is face tattoo. And I'm even starting to go to like a neck tattoo. That's going to be a hard no for me. And you could be I have tattoos. I mean, you could be the nicest person in the world, but like when you show up to my business, I don't want like a skull right here. I just don't. So that would probably be another red flag. But I do look at social media. Um, and I'm not really looking for anything in specific. I'm just trying to get a feel for the person. And I don't know if that really, I don't know if that is worthwhile at all. I haven't been able to track that as terms of like a significant metric of like, oh, I saw this kind of posting on Facebook, therefore this. I don't have any sort of correlation like that. But I do look, I want to know who the people are. I want to know what they look like. Um, and it's when I say look like, it's not like I have any filters except like, yeah, if you have a face tattoo, want, I just don't want to I don't want my business to be associated with that.
A representation for your business, right?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the hiring, the ad funnel on Indeed. Is that always running? Are you always in a constant state of hiring, or do you pause and then hire as needed?
We do pause, but the pauses are getting fewer and further between because we've grown a lot. Like the past probably 4 months, 5 months, we've grown a lot, and there's always a little bit of churn. And the operations manager, she's like, I just want more bandwidth. I want more bandwidth. And so we keep it on most of the time, not all the time. It's actually off right now because my wife and I have been a little bit less able to schedule interviews and things like that. And we've just had a couple good hires. So, bandwidth is okay right now. Not amazing, but okay. So mostly on, sometimes off.
Flip side, right? I mentioned a little bit earlier the double-edged sword, the yin to the yang. Now the marketing side of things.
Hmm.
What are you currently doing for your marketing efforts?
Well, we do, we focus on, local service ads. We got a Google PPC guy. We post on Facebook. I'm currently doing, do you know the software Up Viral?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm doing an Up Viral kind of giveaway, Thanksgiving deep clean giveaway. I'm trying to build a list with that. And this is just an experiment. I don't know if it's going to work in the business or not. I don't know if it's going to be worthwhile, but I'm doing that to build the list. It's dormant right now, but we did the realtor outreach program. That worked like gangbusters, man. It really did. Nikki was working on it for months, and like I mean, it's probably been a month since we've gotten the bookings from it, but like a year after she started, we were getting bookings, and people were really just saying, "Yeah, the only reason I'm calling you is because you never stopped calling." So that was pretty good. But that's about it. Like we're doing some SEO moves, like trying to get a backlink here and a backlink there and whatnot. I'm a service area business right now. Like I don't have a physical location, which is not ideal for SEO, but it's like it's too big of a risk right now. I mean, I don't know if I'm being too cautious about this, but if I'm going to get a physical location, I risk Google, the Google business profile will be suspended when I change my address. And then I risk it not coming back on. And with 150 something reviews, 4.9, and that's how, I don't know if I'm willing to do that right now. In fact, I'm not willing to do that right now. So yeah, that's about it in terms of marketing, some SEO stuff for that. Because even though we're a service area business, we rank in terms of, like, the search results, links and whatnot. We're like number 2 in our area, number 3 in our area. We're number 5 on the map pack. So even though we're service area business, we're doing all right. And then, yeah, some Facebook stuff. Have we ever gotten a bookings from Facebook? I don't know. I don't know that I did that we have.
Have you had a super successful campaign that you've ran that you could remember?
No, I mean, I haven't done like I'm doing this giveaway now, and it's the first sort of proper campaign that I'm doing.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, I relied on LSA for way too long. I did dabble in Facebook ads and that actually worked pretty well. I was surprised about how well it worked. And what I mean is I didn't keep it going very long. And why? Because I'm the bottleneck. Like Facebook's a creative platform. You got to churn creative. Your creative dies real quick. And so like I was the one doing creative and I wasn't keeping up with it. So I turned the ads off, but they actually did pretty well. I was surprised. We got right off the bat, we got a couple recurring clients and whatnot.
What are you leveraging data wise in your decision making? Like what are you extrapolating from your marketing to turn that data into, your next decision?
Oh, geez, I feel like I'm not. I mean, we use data, I mean, I'm doing a lot with data, in terms of like, bookings and revenue per client, stuff like that. But in terms of on the marketing side, not much. Like we do have some data now from Google Ads, and we have data in terms of like where specifically our customers are in our service area, and our service area is pretty big. There's probably more I can do that I'm just not doing. I'm gonna put that on my to-do list. Figure something out for that.
Networking events, do you do any networking or not necessarily have to be an event, but do you do partnerships with other service businesses or realtors or anything like that?
I mean, just like we did the realtor outreach program to try to get on people's preferred vendor list, and then we don't do carpet cleaning, and I don't have a contract that does carpet cleaning. I mean, so I do have a relationship with a couple carpet cleaners where I'll send them cleans and they send me cleans, a little bit informal kind of stuff, nothing major. But no, I don't really do much more than that.
Customer loyalty is huge. It's obviously the best way to generate that repeat business. And in this industry, recurring is gold.
Yeah.
How are you focusing on making sure you generate the repeat business and just giving the utmost customer loyalty?
Yeah, so we do like a service guarantee, meaning if something's not right, we'll come back and fix it. That works most of the time. In terms of like if there's an unhappy customer, we don't refund very much. We do if we have to, and if we miss something, obviously we will. We're gonna take ownership for it, but we're gonna try to fix it first. And so I think that won't, like I said before, we answer the phone, and that's kind of a big deal. A lot of customers say, "Well, thanks for answering the phone." So I think that's a big one. And then we demonstrate when we talk to clients, we demonstrate that we want to make it right if we mess it up. And so I think that's definitely a part of it. And we're just good communicators. Again, anybody watching, listening, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, has got great communication stuff in there. And we use that a lot. And it helps us build better relationships with people. Now we don't currently do a royalty, like a loyalty program or anything. I'm kind of considering starting that. I work network with somebody who does do that to great success. Right now, we're in the name of the game of like our focus right now is we're doubling down on recurring and how do we make it better. So it's kind of like in progress of working on the cleaner pipeline, but also working on how do we increase recurring bookings every month and recurring bookings as a percent of total revenue. So I'm kind of dabbling with the idea. Do I do a loyalty thing on or not? Open ideas if you got any.
Loyalty programs are huge. I mean, like you said, I don't think there's anything better than working on the recurrings and also running a campaign to your one times, right? The people who
Yeah.
booked once and giving them, if it's been more than, 3 months, 6 months, give them a discount code to come back or, give them, say, hey, book 4 cleans, we'll give you the 5th clean for half off or for free even, right? So
Yeah.
getting the one-timers back into the door and then getting them on that recurring cycle is the biggest thing that I would suggest.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I need to do more of that, like more of like the one-time campaign.
Also, gift cards. If you don't have the gift card section enabled, run an email or even a text campaign saying, the holidays are coming up. A great gift idea would be a gift card for your loved ones, because I forgot the stat, but there is a statistic where it's quite shocking the amount of money that goes unused in gift cards. It's essentially becomes free to the business.
Oh,
Not
right.
saying that you're going to get a bunch of
Right. You
people
don't want
buying
that to happen.
it. Yeah, because then, you could somebody will gift a gift card, and then that can turn into a recurrent client. So those
Roger that.
are those are some big ones. Going into the revenue and money side of things, how much revenue have you done in total since you started almost 3 years ago, 2 months shy of 3 years?
Oh, I don't know that number. I mean, I can look at it real quick if you like.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Give me 1 second.
In the meantime, while you're looking it up, do you know what you've done year to date?
Yeah. So just give me 1 second. I apologize. Okay. So year to date revenue, um, we've done 311,000. No, sorry, that's not right. That we've done about 380,000.
380 year to date.
Yes, sir.
And from the beginning,
Just 1 second. We've done 623,000.
and you would say that's mostly year two and this year.
Yeah, yeah. First year was, like I said, rough.
Do you remember what that year looked like?
I don't.
That's all right.
I don't.
So monthly, you're hovering what, 35 fish?
So right now, what was it? July was our best month at 53. August was 52, and then it's been like 42, 43 since then. Yeah, yeah. That we're at on average right now about 42, 43 is our what seems to be our current baseline.
Okay. Averaging in those slower months in the
Yeah.
beginning of the year and then
Yeah,
taking
because
up.
like yeah, I mean like the beginning of the year, like I mean January is always rough, right? But
Yeah.
January was, let's see, I mean January was 17,000.
Big difference. Almost
Yeah, yeah,
more, less than half, right?
yeah, exactly.
So you're looking at what, almost touching 500K year end.
Yeah, close to, yeah.
That's fantastic. What are you margin wise?
So I mean gross margins like what 45%, but net, I mean take home is 20 to 25 depending on the month. I mean I don't particularly look at things at a year basis at this point. I'm looking at a month to month basis. And so depending on the month, it could be 19%, it could be 23%. Depends on, ad spend, do we have to refund anybody, things like that. But yeah, take home after taxes 20, 23%.
Great margin. That's at, you said 40, 45 gross. That's real. You got that dialed in, because I know for the most part people are around the 30, 35 mark.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So when I say, well, I mean, so when I say gross, I mean like after like contractor pay, right? So, and then after paying all the overhead advertising costs, we're net profit at about, yeah, 23%.
That's great. And metric wise to track, what are you looking at and what are you tracking to make sure that the growth is going in a successful upward trend?
We focus on conversion rates, on the sales end, and we focus on, yeah, we're tracking that. I'm doubling down on tracking that. And that's one thing that I'm not doing all the operations. I can make sure that everything's being tracked appropriately. So we're focused on, at least 45% conversion rate is our kind of based on what we want. And we're pretty good at hitting that. We'll be between 45 and 48 total across all channels each month.
Managing risk, what's your strategy for that?
Yeah, I'm pretty risk averse when it comes to, I mean, when it comes to this. I guess that most things is apparent now. I'm pretty risk averse, but I'm pretty risk averse. Like this giveaway that I'm doing. Like I was like, well, I mean, I'm gonna, in terms of ads, I'm probably baked in for $750 in ads. And then depending how big the house is, it could be, I'm looking at $1,200 maybe that I'm going to be in for with all the things that I'm giving away. that's, for me, that seems risky. I don't want to, that seems pretty risky, but, I do my best to kind of think things through in terms of big picture stuff rather than, like my initial reaction to be to not spend the money and not just keep the way that things are, right? But I also recognize that that's not how I'm going to grow. So I do my best to just look at big picture stuff, let whatever fear or panic pass, and then just see if it's worth it. And I think like with this giveaway, I think it has a potential, the way that up viral works, I could really maybe get a lot of people in it. And we're on day 2 right now, and so far so good.
You mentioned that, this is a generational thing and it's something you and your wife are building together. What's the outlook on the business for the next 5 to 10 years? Where do you think you'll be at? Where do you want to be at? Or have you not thought that?
Yeah, so we want to the way that we're doing it now is the way that it's going towards is that we have, a cleaning business and, in 3 years time, what we want to have is 3 cleaning businesses in 3 different states, each one doing at least $30,000 a month in recurring revenue. And then that's managed basically by a fourth company, like the management company, like that, the VAs and whatnot. Because the VAs, because it's the same business name across states, answering the phone call from state 1 is the same as answering the phone call from state 2, except you just got to recognize which cleaners can do which jobs and whatnot. So that's where we want to have, yeah, three cleaning businesses operating at that level. Yeah, within 2 years. And then at that point, we'll probably put it on autopilot as much as we can and then build something else.
Were you thinking something under the same name or
No.
outside?
Yeah, totally different. Like, I mean, like at this point, like I'm looking into like what business can I buy, right? Because as we have more capital revenue saved up, like we want to, let's just buy a stream of in, let's just buy some cash flow. So probably buy a business or, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm looking to buy a business. They're totally different sector, totally different idea. Just something that's got proven, accounting and whatnot behind it and proven records and stuff that we can just basically buy something, with a small business loan, optimize it, and then put an operator in there, and it's just another stream of income.
Going towards the technology side of things with Booking Koala, how big a role is tech in your day-to-day ops? I know you already mentioned that automations are a big thing for you and you love doing.
Hmm.
So how big is it for you to run everything?
Yeah, I mean, it's like tech is a big part of it, right? So like I use Mate to put things together, and so there's a lot of webhooks that are kind of set up for Booking Koala, so it's a pretty big deal. Like the completed booking webhook that's the primary one that we use to. I don't really create bookings when they're made because if they're changed, whatever, it kind of becomes a headache to get everything up to date. So I just wait till the bookings are completed and then send them into C-table for a dynamic database. And then other than that, like I'm doing other tech stuff, with open phone, like you can, open phone's a lot more powerful than I realized when we first had it, but that with Go High Level and Make, like there's a lot of different automations that I've been able to set up that just make things smoother and more regular and more consistent. Like all the VAs have to do is put a tag into something and then it's going to fire off a whole sequence of something. And then, when an action is completed, all they have to do is recognize that and it's sent to Slack and then they just change the tag. So I'd say it's becoming more and more, not reliant, but using tech.
When you first started the business, is that when you signed up for Booking Koala or did you use a different software before us and you switched over?
Yeah, I mean, I went all in on booking quality. So I was at the program HSA, and they were like, they recommended y'all, and so I just went with y'all. I mean, I like opened the business and opened the booking quality account the same day.
What was interesting to you from the beginning in the software, when you first started using it?
I guess, I mean, it just seems it has a lot. It can do a lot of things. It can do a lot of things. And at first, it was overwhelming. It's like, oh, I don't even know what most of the stuff is. Stuff that I'm sure I don't know how to use in Booking Koala. But I would say, I mean, the calendars. I mean, it seems so obvious to say, but the calendars and the way that it can sync up on the client end, because we were at one time using, the form to book there. So the way that the calendars can sync up, and then you can see what's available and what's not. cleaners can build out their profile so that they, have a way to kind of present themselves and a bit of their own identity into it. I think that's something that stood out to me right at the beginning. And then the booking form's like straightforward. It's easy. It's easy.
What's one feature you use daily that you couldn't live without?
I'd say probably like, the reporting. I look at the reporting. I'm looking at, it's not just revenue that I'm looking at. Can look at reviews. Like there's a lot of different things that I can just look at from the back end and see, kind of take the temperature of the way things are going, or to kind of get more data about something, and or maybe even booking logs. Like sometimes we'll be like something goes wrong on a job, and we have to kind of like trace back to how that happened, and we go through the different booking logs, and it's good that you can see all the versions of that. So you know who changed what and when they changed it.
What about the flip side? What's something that's missing that you'd like added in?
I don't know. Maybe I don't even know if this is relevant anymore, but maybe like a naked webhook where you could just hook in to the API with it being kind of like a naked one rather than like a just this or just that one. Mm.
Okay.
I know, but I don't know. Because what I can do with Make right now is plenty. Like I don't need anything else. But I remember at one point I was wanting something that I couldn't have, but I think it's now there in Make. I don't know. I don't know I don't know, like it works well now. It works well for us, and yeah, I genuinely can't think of anything. And I'm sure there's always ways to improve anything, right? And so I'm
Right.
sure there's some ways for things to get better, but for, I know what it is. I know what it is. I want to be able to see, I like how you can color code the calendar, but I want both. So I like that you can see, hey, this booking's not charged, it's yellow. That's important. But I also like to see, because I have different service areas, and I like to color code by provider, and then I can know who's available. But if I have it coded to provider, then I can't see if bookings have been charged or not at a
Gotcha.
glance. So if that's what I would recommend. That's my suggestion.
Okay. We talked off camera before this started about the incident from earlier this year.
Mhm.
Talk a little bit how that affected you with the attack and how you handled it with your business.
Yeah, so at the time I wasn't using, and I'm still not. I wasn't using the booking form where the client can find their website and book there. So I didn't, lose any direct revenue that way. But like I said to you earlier, it was more of like a headache. It was a migraine. It was a bad headache. You can lie. It was a bad headache. So the biggest hangups were VAs not being able to get the system to respond while they have a client online. And then that was, we might have lost a sale or two that way. That was usually short term, meaning like, 10 minutes later you're refreshing and it was working. And then the other one was cleaners not being able to access their systems. They don't know where they're going. And so once I realized that was an issue, then, as soon as it was up, because it was intermittent, like sometimes things worked, sometimes they didn't.
Sure.
So as
Yeah.
soon as that worked, I was like using the feature to send out schedules, in mass for the week. But that was the big thing. Like at the time, if I was 17,000 in June, this was what, March, I wasn't much more than that. So it wasn't too high stakes for me. Yeah. So that was probably the biggest headache. So the VAs not being able to access the system. And then we ended up doing a workaround. We ended up just like, um, figuring out, we just kind of just told people we could book them and then figure it out once the system was back online. And then pricing we just came up with a straight, um, price per square foot, depending on what kind of cleaning they were going. So it's just simple
And
multiplication.
there was a point at which you were thinking about exploring other options or even exploring already,
Yeah, yeah.
but the decision was to stay.
Yeah, I looked at different ones. A lot of them were just like way out of my price point. Like I was, you know, um, but then, I looked at one, I think it was Jobber I was looking at, but you couldn't price per square foot. Well, that was a deal killer. And then I was looking at, booking quality is central to my business. My business is integrated to it. And I was just looking at the heavy lift to get off of it. I guess I've never met you before today, but I generally think people are good people. And so I was just, um, I just gave you the benefit, or not just you specifically, booking qual the benefit of that. You guys were to working to get it fixed, and that I was gonna sort itself out. And so I basically just like decided the best course of action for my business was to, just when you're going through hell, keep going.
Well, we appreciate you staying with us. And again, it was a tough time, and the decision to stay and keep your business with us from the bottom of my heart and everybody, we do appreciate you staying and choosing us. One final question here, something a little thought provoking, maybe not so much. If you could go back to talk to 10-year-old Dennis and give him some life advice based on just not necessarily the business, but just life experience overall, what are you telling him?
Okay.
Or
Yep.
I guess since your son is 10 years old,
Right.
that would be a perfect example right there.
Right.
What are you telling him?
Yeah. Well, before I answer that question, I just say, like, I mean, I like booking qual has been a great software for me. Like there was the incident, you know, and that was a headache. But like it's all good. It works well. It does what it's supposed to do, and it's helped me build a business and a lifestyle that I'm truly grateful for. I mean, it's a solid software. It works well. So I mean, I think you guys are doing good things over there. And part of the reason like I knew it was like the business and the software to use is because my daughter's favorite animals are koala, and so I was like, okay, here we go.
We
Um,
appreciate that.
yeah, and I mean, whatever. I see, sometimes look for signs when maybe they're not there, but whatever. But what I would just tell myself to give myself more options, like make choices today that give future you more options, not fewer.
Okay. Well,
Is
Dennis,
that
we appreciate your time, your story. Thank you for sharing with everybody and just knowing another successful business can be run using the software, using coaches like Johnny and Sergio, and being able to open them in multiple states, not just one location.
yes, sir. Thanks. I appreciate talking with you, and I appreciate the software.
Of course. And to everyone watching, we'll see you next time on another episode.